2023 Math Paper 2 External Candidate. So let's see just how fast we can solve this. So the first question is coming from number bases, where we only have zeros and ones. So the best method here to use is long division. Of course, you can convert this to base 2, this to base 2, divide the numbers in base 10, and then convert them back to base 2. But for 2 marks, that's a lot of work. The best method to use here is long division, because with long division, it's just a few steps and you're done. So here we have 1 0 1 1, and then 1 0 0 0, then another 0 and a 1. So remember, the order here is division, multiplication, subtraction, and then you bring some number down. Or dead monkeys. Why am I writing this? Dead monkeys smell bad, like that. So you can say 1 0 1 1 into 1. This is not possible, so you add the 0, you have a 10, still not possible. Into this, still not possible. Into 1000, this is still not possible. Into 10,000, it's possible, so you just write the 1. Remember, you only have zeros and 1, so if division is possible, your answer is 1. If not, your answer is 0. Then now you can multiply this by this, so backwards, starting from here. So you can just say 1 times 1, that's a 1, and then 1 times this other one, you have a 1 times that, that's a 0, and then you have a 1. So now after division, after multiplication, you have subtraction. So you can say 1 minus 0, this is not possible, so you borrow a 1 from here, but because we're in base 2, this will be a 2. Please just write it as a 2 on top, not a 20. Then you can borrow a 1 from here, you remain with a 1, you have a 2 there. You borrow a 1 from here, you remain with a 1, then you have a 2 there. You borrow another 1 from here until you get to this point. Then now 2 minus 1, this is a 1. 1 minus 1, that's a 0. 1 minus 0, you have a 1. 1 minus 1, you have a 0. And then after subtraction, we have bring down. You can bring this one down like this. Once you do this, you can restart the cycle. So you can say this into this is just the 1. Then 1 multiplied by this, you have the same thing, followed by subtraction. So in like 3 simple steps, you're able to find your answer. So the answer here is 11. Then on question 2, we have probability. A box contains 4 transistors of type A and 12 transistors of type B, all identical. So these things are exactly the same. If one transistor is selected at random from the box, what is the probability that it is of type B? So we have for type A, we have 4 transistors, and then for type B, we have 12. That means in total we have 16. So to find the probability that this is type B, you get the total, this will be your denominator, and then on the numerator, you write the number of B's. So we have 12 type B's, so this will be like this. And then in mathematics, you don't leave numbers like this, you don't leave fractions like this unless you've been taught to do so, which is highly unlikely. So you can just reduce the numbers by finding a common factor. So 4 into 12, this is 3. 4 into 16, that's a 4, and you're done. So probability is that easy. And then part C, we have a house. This is appreciation. A house bought for 200,000 appreciates by straight line method at 5% per year. What will be its value after 4 years? So the question here is on appreciation, which is basically the increase in value or the price of something. So since the price of this is increasing, it means we are adding. So we can say 2,000, 200,000 plus the amount it has increased. So now we can say 2,000, 200,000 plus this one is simply PRT over 100. So your P is the principal amount, the amount of money you started with, which is 200,000, multiplied by your R is the rate, which is 5%, but you write it as 5 over 100. And then the T is the time in years, which is 4 years. So of course you will make your work easier by getting rid of those zeros. Then you have 200,000 plus this times this, or maybe this times this, that's a 10. So that means we have a 10,000 times 4, that would be a 40,000, 40,000, yes. And then now we can add these two numbers to get 2,000 for 240,000 kwacha as your new book balance or new price. Okay, and then the next one, part D, we have the total surface area. One of the easiest topics. So the following diagram is a cylinder with radius 7 centimeters and a height of 5 centimeters. Calculate its total surface area. So the total surface area of a cylinder, because they didn't state whether it's open or closed, you can just assume it's closed because a cylinder is a closed object. You only treat it as an open cylinder when you've been told that it's open or when they have given you a hint. So the total surface area is given by 2 pi r and then open brackets h plus r, or we have people who use this 2 pi r h, which is the curved surface area, plus 2 pi r squared, which represents the two circles. So this is the best method to use, but if you can't easily remember this, you can use this. So I'll use this one. So you can say 2 multiplied by our pi is 22 over 7, multiplied by our radius, which is 7, multiplied by open brackets, our h is a 5, then our radius is a 7. So I can just cancel these two out to make my work easier. This multiplied by this, we have a 44, then this plus this, that's a 12. And then to find your answer, you can simply multiply these two. So this will be 44 multiplied by 12. This is 8, that's another 8. That's a 4, another 4. And then when you add, you have an 8, a 2, and a 5. So your answer here will be 528 square centimeters, because we are dealing with area. So we are done with question 1. We can move on to question 2. So calculate the sum of interior angles of a polygon with 9 sides. So to find the sum of interior angles of such a polygon, you can just use this formula. Sum of interior angles, let me just say this, is given by n minus 2 multiplied by 180. If you want, you can even put your 180 this side, it's still the same thing. So your n is the number of sides, and then your sum of interior angles, this is what you want to find. So this would be 9 minus 2 multiplied by 180. This minus 9 minus 2, that's a 7 multiplied by 180. So let's multiply these two numbers. 180 multiplied by 7, that's a 0. That's 56. So that's a 6 carry 5. This is a 7. And then 7 plus 5, we have a 12. Yeah, so this would be 1260 degrees as your sum of interior angles. And then on part B, we have matrices. Another one of the easiest topics in mathematics, especially that we are subtracting. So we've been taught that P is this and Q is this. So you can say Q minus a third of P. So what you do here is you just substitute the values. You know that Q is equal to this. I know it's tempting to start with a P, but please don't do that. They started with a Q and this is what you will do. So Q is 4 minus 1, and then 0, and then a 5, then minus 1. So we have this minus, and then 1 over 3. Our P is 6, 0, 3, minus 9. So when you're multiplying at this point by a scalar, just treat this as 1 over 3 and leave this negative sign here. Yeah, it's possible you can treat it as a negative, but don't forget to leave a positive in that case. So I'll just leave it as it is. And then 1 over 3 multiplied by 6 is like saying 1/3 of 6, or 6 divided by 3, because this is like so. So you can just do this, and then this times this, you have a 2. So this one will be a 2. 1 over 3 times 0. Any number multiplied by 0 is 0. Then 1 over 3 times 3. This is just a 1. Remember, we are just dividing 3 by 3. And then this times this will be negative 3. Remember, once again, we are just dividing negative 9 by 3. And then after this, you can now proceed to subtraction. By the way, we are using a bit of this guy here, BODMAS or PEMDAS or BIDMAS or whatever you were taught. So you can't subtract before you multiply. So now subtraction is a straightforward thing. You subtract the numbers directly. So you can say 4 minus 2, this is a 2. And then minus 1 minus 0, you have minus 1, because you are not subtracting anything from minus 1. And then 0 minus 1, this will be minus 1. Please don't make a mistake here. This minus this is just the 1, and then you get the sign from the bigger number. Or you can just ignore the 0 there. And then 5 minus minus 3, 5 minus minus 3. Actually, it's a very good idea to work them out from this side, especially when you have negative signs. So negative and negative, this is a positive 3, which is an 8. So your answer is 2 minus 1 minus 1, 8, and you're done. And then now we have part C, which is almost always geometric construction. So now use geometrical instruments to construct triangle PQR, in which PQ is 4 centimeters, QR is 5 centimeters, and then angle PQR is 120 degrees. Okay, so for this topic, you need these instruments. You need your compass, an extra pencil, a protractor, preferably one that has no space inside, and then a ruler. But because I don't have a ruler with me right now, I decided to improvise. So let's solve this. So the first part is use geometrical instruments to construct triangle PQR, in which PQ, so you start with PQ, just make sure that you draw your diagram somewhere here, because you may need something there. So this is your 0, and then all the way to 4 centimeters. This is where my 4 centimeter mark is. So I'll draw my line starting from 0. Make sure you are holding your pencil like this, perpendicular to the paper, like that. So this is my 4 centimeters. And then after that, make sure you label it. So this is my PQ. And then QR must be 5 centimeters. So my QR should be 5 centimeters. But then I can't just draw a 5 centimeter line anyhow. Perhaps I can use this, but I can make 5 centimeters using this and then draw an arc. But the best is to find the angle first. So this is my protractor. I'll put it like this. And then because my 0 is this side, I'll use the numbers on top. I'm not going to use these numbers because they are moving backwards. My 0 arm or my origin is this line here, which is also the base. You go all the way to 120 degrees. So this is where my 120 degrees mark is. So I'll just put a dot like that. And then after putting a dot, I can now draw a line which is 5 centimeters from here. So now this may or may not touch that dot. So okay, this time around it's ending just there, but it's just a coincidence. Sometimes it may go beyond this point, then at other times it may not even touch it. But whatever you do, just make sure that your ruler is nicely positioned to pass to this point and that point. And then we can label this one our R. Then after that, you connect these 2 points. Remember, you are drawing a triangle. So this will join the other point like this. And then part B is saying measure and write the length of PR. So this is my PR. I'll measure it. This, okay, let me just put my ruler like this. So for me, this is 7 points. This is 5, 6, 7, 8. For me, this is 7.8. So I will write it down, 7.8, or I can put it somewhere here. My PR is 7.8 centimeters. And then next, bisect the sides PQ and QR, and then label the point of intersection of the two bisectors as O. So to bisect PQ, this is where this guy comes in. So you can just make any radius of your choice, provided it's more than half of this. And then you draw 2 arcs. Let me just extend it a bit. Remember, the choice is yours. So you draw an arc on both sides of this line. So you draw an arc this side and this side. And then with the same radius, you will do the same thing with this as your center because you are bisecting PQ. So I will do this and then I will do that like so. And then we can draw a line passing through these 2 points. So just make sure you don't miss the points like this. Okay, so like that. Since this line is 4 centimeters and I'm bisecting it, the bisector should be 2 centimeters, and it is for me. It's very important to check because you want to make sure that the line is being bisected, or it's being cut in 2 equal parts. And then you do the same thing on QR because you also want to bisect QR. You can use any radius of your choice provided it's more than half of this. So the moment you use a radius which is less than half of this, then your arcs will not meet. So this is why we extend our red eye to make sure that they are meeting. So I can either extend it or I can maintain it since this is okay. So I'll draw an arc this side. It's okay if they meet. Then I'll draw another arc that side. Just make sure that you pay attention to the arcs you are dealing with. And by the way, make sure you have a good protractor like this, or you can just get one of these ordinary ones, but it must be stable. So these are my two arcs. I'll connect them using my ruler and my pencil. So in marking, we look at these things. Please do not erase them. Yeah, so now I can draw my bisector like that, and make sure your pencil is sharp. So just to verify, this line is 5 centimeters, so my bisector should be half of 5, and it is for me. Let me just extend this because these two should meet. Like that. And then we've been told to label the point of intersection. So you should avoid double lines by all means. So now that we have bisected this and labeled the point O, the next part is with center O and radius OP, draw a circle passing through the vertices P, Q, and R. So these are the vertices. So if the circle should touch P, Q, and R, then it should be outside, because there is no way a circle can be inside and touch the vertices. They may not tell you that you are drawing a circle outside or inside, but when you are bisecting sides, you know that you are dealing with the circle outside. Then when you are bisecting angles, you are dealing with the circle inside. So with radius OP, so I'll put my point here and then my pencil there, and then before I even draw, I'll check if my radius is able to touch all the other sides. So if not, I have to adjust it until it's able to do that. So yeah, there is my circle touching all the three sides like this. And you're done. You have all the 5 marks for doing nothing. Then we can now proceed to question 3. So on question 3, we have number bases again. Another one of my favorite topics. So I have 321 in base 5 multiplied by 42, which is also in base 5. And then they want the product in base 5. So yeah, once again, you are free to convert these numbers to base 10, this to base 10, multiply them, and then convert them back to base 5. But that's a lot of work, especially that you're dealing with numbers in base 5. So the best is to use this grade 3 method, where you just multiply the numbers like this. And then bear in mind that in base 5, you only have numbers less than 5. Of course, we are talking about positive numbers. So now, when you multiply and you have one of these numbers, you just write it down. So 2 times 1, that's a 2. 2 times 2, that's a 4, because all these numbers are in here. But 2 times 3, this is a 6. You can't write a 6 because you do not have a 6 there. What you do instead is, it says 6 divided by 5. So you divide the 6 by 5. What is your remainder? This is 1. This into this is 1, then remainder 1. So you write the remainder down like this, and then you carry this one over to the next digit. But because we have nothing here, you can just put it there. And then next, you can put the placeholder. This is optional. Then 4 by 1, this is 4. Then 4 by 2, that's an 8. We do not have an 8 here, so you can say 8 divided by 5. Because we're in base 5, we always divide by 5. So 5 into 8, this is 1, remainder 3. So once again, you write down the remainder, which is 3, and then carry this one over to the next digit, like so. And then 4 by 3, this is 12, plus the one we carried over, you have a 13. So now 13, we do not have a 13 there, so you say 13 divided by 5. This will be 2, remainder 3. So I'll write down my 3, and then I'll carry this 2 over to the next digit. As you can see, we do not have any digit here, so you can just write it like so. And then now we can add this plus this, that's a 2. This plus this, we have an 8. But because we do not have an 8 in base 5, you can do this. So you say 8 divided by 5. You can even use this. This is 1, remainder 3. You write down your 3 and then carry this one over to the next digit. So this plus this, that's a 4, plus 1, that's a 5. You don't have a 5 in base 5, so it's a 5 divided by 5. That's 1, remainder 0. So you write your 0 down and then carry your 1 over to the next digit once again. So this plus this, you have a 4, plus 1, you have a 5. So 5 divided by 5, that's 1, remainder 0. So you write your remainder down, then carry your 1 over to the next digit. This plus this is a 3. And you're done. So your answer is 30032 in base 5. And then next we have this company. So a company pays its workers at the rate of 30 kwacha per hour for 40 hours per week, and the rate of overtime is double time. Calculate the total wage that Mubelesi received for a week in which he worked for 60 hours. So this should be a Tonga word, which means a worker. So to find the calculate the total wage for this person, we can just say normal pay, can I just call it NP, plus overtime pay. So to find the normal pay, you can simply multiply the normal number of hours, which is 40, by the normal rate, which is 30. So this will give us 1,200. And then to find the overtime pay, you need to know how much extra time he worked. He was supposed to work for 40 hours, he worked for 60 hours. So that means he worked for some extra 20 minutes when you subtract. Yeah, because he worked for 60 hours, he was supposed to work for this. So that means the other time is considered overtime. So the overtime pay will simply be this 20 multiplied by the rate, and then you've been told that this is a double time thing, so you can just say this times this, that's 600 times 2, you have 1,200, and then the total pay will therefore be this plus this, 12,000 plus 12,000. So now this plus this will be 24,000 kwacha. And you're done. Then still on question 3, part C, we have this. So the function the table shows the corresponding values of x and y. So you have this to this, this to that, this to that. Find the function that describes the relationship between x and y. So in short, they just want you to find the equation. And ECZ is not very strict at this level. You can use any method of your choice. So if you want, you can use y is equal to mx plus c. If you want, of course you have to find this one first and then this. If you want, you can use y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 is equal to y minus y1 over x minus x1. If you want, you can just look at the pattern, because that's another way of dealing with this. So at this level, if you can't observe the pattern, then you can use any of these two. So let's look at the numbers. So this looks like half of this, but this is not half of 2. So we try again. Okay, so I can see they are adding a 2 to get this. You add a 2, you get that. Skip this, add the 2, you get this. Yeah, so the equation here is simply y is equal to you get your x and then you add a 2 to it. If you want, you can even make it like this, something which you are more familiar with. Yeah, so you have minus 2 to 0, and then you have 2 to 4, and then you have 4 to 6. And then as you can see, this is your x, this is your y. So you can just say x plus, they're adding a 2 there, is equal to that to get the y. So this is your equation. If you want to use this, just pick any 2 points. So for me, I would try to avoid negative numbers. So I would pick 2, 4. These numbers are quite big. So maybe I may pick this, negative 2, 0. But it doesn't really matter which method you use. And then you can just substitute them there by calling this one your x1, and then y1, and then x2, y2. Just substitute them there and simplify. Or you can substitute, you can find your gradient, which is basically just this. Then once you find it, you put it there and solve for c by picking one of those points. But I don't want to make this video too long. And then part B is saying find the value of b. So to find the value of b, we can say y is equal to x plus 2. So b is coming from this pair, which is b comma 2. So where there is x, you put your b, because x is b, then plus 2. Then where there is a y, you put your 2, because y is 2. And then now you can solve for b. So I can just bring this to this side and leave the b alone there, because I don't want to make it a negative b. This minus this will be a 0. So that means my b is 0. And I'm done. So move on to question 4. So we have an equation here. And the equation is 3 open brackets 4x plus 1 is equal to 5x plus 31. So to solve for x here, according to BODMAS, we must expand first. We need to get rid of the brackets. So this by this will be 12x. This by this will be a 3. Then you have 5x plus 31. Then you can put the like terms together. So we have 12x. You bring this on this side. You have a 5x. Then you leave your 31 alone. Then take this one to the other side. You have this. Then this minus this is 7x. Then this is 28. Then you can divide both sides by 7. So that your x is equal to 4. And you're done. And then the next one is express 0.008879 in standard form, correct one significant figure. So I want to move my point as many times as it takes for me to have one non-zero digit in front. So this is a 0, this is still a 0, we have an 8, so we can stop there. So this one will be 8.879 multiplied by 10 to the power the number of steps I have taken. So I have moved 1, 2, 3 steps. And of course, because I'm moving backwards, this will be a negative sign. If I was moving forward, I would put a positive sign. But then we've been taught to round this number off correct to one significant figure. So that means we are only interested in the first digit. Everything else is irrelevant. So this will be, because this one is greater than 4, or let's just say it's 5 and above, we can just put a 9 there. This one will increase by 1 multiplied by 10 to the power minus 3. And you're done. And then on part C, we have this simple problem. The exchange rate between the British pound and the Zambian kwacha on a particular day was 1 euro, okay, to 19, like this. So this is the exchange rate. How many pounds were, actually these are pounds. How many pounds were exchanged for 3,900? I'm not sure I know the difference. Okay, so this side you have pounds, and then this side you have kwacha. You want to convert these to pounds. So what you do is, on the same side where you have kwacha, put 3900, and then this side you can just put an X. You can as well just forget about the 0 at the end to make your work easier. Then now you can cross multiply this by this. This would be 19.5x is equal to this times this 3,900. So now to solve for x, you can divide both sides by 19.5 like this. Then this and this will go, so that you have this. But of course, dividing by a decimal number can be a bit challenging. So what you want to do is multiply by the number of decimal places. Because we have one decimal place, I'll put 1 0 on both. So if you kept your 0 and you didn't understand why I removed this 0, then it's still okay. You can put zeros there. At one point they'll cancel out anyway. So now this will be 3,000, actually 39,000 over, this one will simply be 195, because when I multiply this by 10, the decimal point will move. When I multiply this by 10, I'll just add one more 0. So now I have to find the number of times this goes into this first. So you can even put these 2 zeros in advance, and then now find the number of times this one goes into that. So let's start with, of course we know that it can't go there one time, so you can just assume it goes there 2 times. So you multiply this by 2, this by 2, that's a 0, this by 2, that's a 9, plus the remainder we carried over. I mean, this is 18 plus 1, we have a 9, and then this times this, we have a 2 plus 1, that's a 3. Yeah, so this one can go into this 2 times. Then because of these 2 zeros, you have that. So this amount in pounds will be 200 pounds. Normally we put subdivisions for such kinds of problems. And then still on question 4, we have another one of the easiest topics in grade 9 math. So I'll draw it again because so we have start. Okay, so we have this. Given the simple interest I, so what you've been given here is your input. So you've been given simple interest, which is I. You've also been given the interest rate, which is R, and then you've also been given the time. So these are your inputs. The quantities you start with are your inputs. So you can just say enter. You say I, comma, R, and then comma T. So please, you don't need and, you don't need anything else. You just separate these guys using commas. And then what do you process? You can complete the flowchart to calculate and display the principal amount. So the principal amount here, P, is your output, because this thing should display the principal amount. So you can just say display P. And then now you can move on to the processing box. So we all know that simple interest is given by P times R times T over 100, because this one is a percentage. So rate of interest per annum. Okay, they didn't really say, they didn't really state whether it's a percentage or not, but we know that this thing is always a percentage. So now you have to make P the subject of the formula there. So you can put over 1 and cross multiply. So this times this, you have P R T. This is the same as P times R times T. Then this times this, you have 100I. And then to make P the subject of the formula, you have to divide both sides by R times T. R times T. Then you can cancel these two out, so that you have P is equal to 100I over R times T. Now, when writing this equation there, you don't write it the way you write in your books, because your computer may not understand this. So what you write instead is P is equal to this multiplied by that. So 100 multiplication is this by I, and then divided by this. So you say over, don't write this thing here, over R, and you can't write it as RT, or else your computer will treat this as a single quantity. So you say R multiplied by T, and you're done. And then we have sets. The Venn diagram shows the elements of sets X, Y, and Z. Lists the elements of set this X union Y brackets, and then complement intersection Z complement. So what you do here is you list down the elements of X union Y complement. So this is X union Y, this thing here. Then when we say complement, we mean everything outside this. So that means we are talking about numbers like 1, and then we have an 8, then we have an 11, and then we have a 12. And then we want to intersect it with Z complement. So elements of Z complement are elements outside Z. This is set Z. So in this set we have a 2. Make sure I write the numbers in some order, ascending order for numbers, and then alphabetical order for letters. So we have 2, 3, and then we have the 4. Do we have the 5? No, 5 is in Z, 6 is in Z, 7 is in Z, and then we have an 8, and then we have a 9, then we have a 10, and then we have 11 is in Z, then we have a 12, like this. Yeah, I think these are the only elements. And then to find the intersection set of this and this, just find elements which are common to these two sets. So we have a 12. A 12 is common. Do we have an 11? Do we have an 8? Yes, we also have an 8. So this one will be 8, 12, and you're done. Because the intersection of these two is telling you that they want elements which are common to these two sets. And then on part 2 rather, we have Y union Z complement, and then union X. So Y union Z complement, you can list down the elements of Y union Z complement. In other words, we want elements outside these two sets here. So these are, the smallest is 2, followed by an 8, followed by a 10, followed by a 12. And then now you can list down the elements of x, because it's this and x. So elements of x are elements in this circle here. So you have a 2, a 4, a 6, a 7, and a 10. And then now to find the union of these two sets, y union z complement union x, what you need to do is you combine what you have in this with what you have in this without repeating any element. That's what it means to unite sets. So you can say 2, 4, then 6, and then you have a 7, and you have an 8, then you have a 10, and then you have a 12, and you're done. And then on part C, we have a bit of statistics. So it says here the table shows the time in minutes that 25 learners took to arrive at school. So we have 3 students who took 1 to 10 minutes, 6 students who took 11 to 20 minutes, and so on. Use this information to complete the frequency polygon. So this is what you do. The first one has been done for you. 1 to 10 has been plotted at this point. So this is a 3, 1 to 10, 3. And then the next one is 11 to 20, 6. This one has been done for you. So you are starting from there. So you say 21 to 30, 5. This is where your 5 is. You put a dot like this. Then next we have 31 to 40, 7. So you go to 7 and then you put a dot like that. Then 41 to 50, 4, 41 to 50, 4, you put a dot there. Then once you do that, you can connect these dots with straight lines. So you can just, of course, you are using your ruler and a pencil. Please do not use a pen. You connect the dots in the order they appear, like that, and then like that. And you're done. And then we have simultaneous equations. So solve the simultaneous equations. So to solve these equations, we have x minus y is equal to 1. Then we have 2x plus 5y is equal to 16. You want to check if you have the same coefficients for x or for y. So as you can see, the coefficients of x are different, the coefficients of y are equally different. So what you do here is you can choose to eliminate either x or y by making their coefficients the same but with different signs. So this is how you do it. So you can get either the coefficients of x or the coefficients of y, and then swap them and multiply. So for me, I'll go with the coefficients of 5 because I can see that the signs are already different. This will make my work easier. If you want, you can still use this, but at one point you have to involve some negatives, either by subtracting or by multiplying one of the two equations by a negative. So I'll put my 5 there. Then the coefficient of this is a 1. I'm not going to treat it as negative 1, or else the signs will be undesired. So this times this will be 5x. Then this times this, you have 5y. Then 5 times 1, you have a 5. Then 1 times this equation, you have 2x plus 5y. And then we have a 16. Okay, and then at this point, you can, as you can see, the coefficients of y are the same and the signs are different. So I can just add the two equations. Addition is much easier than subtraction. So this plus this will be 7x. That's a 0 there. I'm not going to write it. This plus this, we have a 21. And then we can divide both sides by 7 so that your x is 3. And then now I can pick any of these two equations to solve for y. So I'll go with the first one, which is x minus y is equal to this. Where there is x, I'll put a 3. And then minus y, and then this is equal to 1. So to minimize negative signs, I'll just take my y to the other side and then bring this one this side, because I want this one to be positive. Remember, it goes to the other side, it's positive. You bring this one this side, you have a negative. So this minus this, you have a 2, and that means my y is 2 and my x is 3. And then we can move on to the next problem, which is question 6. So on question 6, we have another easy problem. So a watch costs 50 kwacha exclusive of value added tax or VAT. Calculate its cost if 16% VAT is included. So this is exclusive of VAT. In other words, this is the price without anything added to it. So this is considered 100% of the price. And then once you add something to the price, this is 100 plus 16. What you have is this number here, or what you have is the price with VAT included. So now, as you can see, this is just the 116. So you can say this, and then x to 116. Then now we can cross multiply to solve for x. This by this, we have 100x. Then this by 50. So I'll show you another method. So maybe instead of me multiplying these two numbers, I can divide both sides by this, so that we have x, and then I can cancel out like that. This is allowed. And then 5 can go into 10 2 times, and then 2 into 11, that's a 5, remainder 1. 2 into 16, that's an 8. So the answer here is 58 kwacha. An alternative method when you've been given the price exclusive of VAT is to find 16% of this, because it's always 16% of the price exclusive of VAT, not inclusive. So you multiply these two, then I can just cancel these two out, then I have a 2. So 2 into 18, 2 into 16, this will be an 8. So this is the VAT. And then you can add the VAT to the 50, which will give you 58 kwacha. And you're done. Then on part B, we have similarity and congruency, another easy topic. So in the diagram, AB is parallel to BC. AB is parallel to ED rather. And then BC is 10 centimeters, CE is 15 centimeters, and DE is 18 centimeters. Calculate the length of AB. So here it's just a matter of relating sides. So when you look at these two triangles, you can see that this side looks like this, because these two are parallel to each other. This looks like this. In other words, this is just a continuation of that. So you can just relate them like that. You can say AB is proportional to ED. And then since I started with AB, which is from the smaller triangle, I can get this one here. BC will be proportional to CE. An alternative method is to treat them as fractions, among other methods you can use. So our AB is unknown, so we can just leave it as AB. If you want, you can call it X. And then our ED is 18. And then our BC is 10 centimeters. Then our CE is 15 centimeters. And then now you can cross multiply although it's always a good idea to reduce your numbers, because remember these are just fractions. So I can say a 3 can go into this 5 times, a 3 can go into this 6 times. Then we can cross multiply now. This times this, we have 5ab, or 5x if you are using x, and then 10 by 6, we have a 60. And then now we can divide both sides by 5, so that our AB is equal to 5 into 6, that's a 1, remainder 1, 5 into 10, we have a 12, and these are centimeters. But if you don't want to reduce the numbers like this, please go ahead and cross multiply, except that the numbers may be a bit bigger. Still on question 6, we have this. On the x or y plane, plot the points. So these are free marks or bonus marks. So we have 2, 0. So x is 2, y is 0. So that means we are talking about the line here. And then d is minus 1, 1. So that means x, of course, you have to label this c. And then d is minus 1, 1. So x is minus 1, y is 1. So this point will be there. And then e is minus 1, 3. So that means x is minus 1, and then y is positive 3. So you have that point there. And then plot and join. So in this case you have to join, because they are asking you to plot and join these points. So of course you have to name them. This is my E, and then we have the D there, and then we can join the points like so. To form this triangle. So anything that has to do with drawings, please use your pencil, and then draw the graph of y is equal to negative 2. So when they say y is equal to negative 2, as you can see, there is no x here, so forget about the x-axis and just concentrate on the y-axis. Go to the point where y is negative 2. We have y is positive 2 here, and we have y is negative 2. So y is negative 2 will be here. So we can just draw a straight line here and call it y is equal to negative 2. And you're done. And then we can proceed to question 7. Okay, these are one of the easiest questions, but I don't know why students complicate them. So it says here, the following diagram is a quadrilateral with interior angles x, 3x, and x plus 3. While one of its exterior angles is 100. So we have an exterior angle here which is 100 degrees, and then express in terms of x. Remember, they just want you to express. You're not solving for anything here. So express in terms of x the sum of interior angles of the quadrilateral in its simplest form. So to express the sum of interior angles, you need all the interior angles. You have one here, you have one there, you have one there, and then you need this one here, because this is also an interior angle, considering the fact that it's inside. So you have to find this angle first. Of course, the full cycle or the full revolution has 360 degrees. So to find this angle here, you can just say 360 minus 100. So this one will be 260. So now to express in terms of x the sum of interior angles, you can just say 3x plus, remember the sum means you are adding. In short, they just want you to add the angles inside, and then you simplify whatever you get. That's what they mean by in its simplest form. So you have this, and then you have this angle which is 260, and then you have this angle which is x plus 3. So now you have expressed the sum of interior angles in terms of x, but you haven't expressed it in its simplest form. So this is what you do to express this in its simplest form. In other words, you just simplify this. So you can just say 3x plus x, I'm putting the like terms together, then plus the other x there, and then plus 260 plus 3. Then this plus this will be 4x, then plus that we have a 5x, and then this plus this will be 263, like that, and they're done. You don't need to solve for anything. They didn't ask you to solve for x. Yes, it's possible to solve for x, but that's not what the question is saying. And then given that C is this, D is that, find the matrix CD. So to find the matrix CD, you can just say CD. Where there is C, put your C. So for matrices, you have to be very careful because CD and DC may not be the same in general. So C is this. So we have 2, 1, 1, 1 being multiplied by D, which is 1, 2, minus 2, and then 3. So now multiplication is done by multiplying rows by columns. So this is how you do it. You say 2 multiplied by 1, you have a 2, and then plus, but because this one will be a negative, so I'm not going to put a plus here. So 1 times minus 2, this will be minus 2. And then before I move on to the numbers at the bottom, I have to multiply this by this to get the numbers this side. By the way, we are multiplying a 2 by 2 matrix by a 2 by 2 matrix. So you expect a 2 by 2 matrix as your product. So now we can say 2 multiplied by 2, this will be a 4. And then 1 multiplied by 3, this will be a 3. Plus 3, like that. So this times this 4 plus this times this. And then to get the numbers at the bottom, you use the second row. And then you multiply it by this to get this. You multiply it by that to get this. So you can say 1 multiplied by 1, this is a 1. And then 1 multiplied by minus 2, this will be minus 2. So it's row by column. Once again, you say 1 multiplied by 2, this is a 2, then plus 1 multiplied by 3, this is a 3. And then now you can subtract this minus this, that's a 0. 4 plus 3, you have a 7. And then 1 minus 2, you have a minus 1. And then this plus this, you have a 5. And you're done. So next, we have another easy topic. So illustrate the solution of y is greater than or equal to x minus 2 on the x or y plane below by shading the wanted region. For the domain, minus 2 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 4. So what the domain is telling you is your x values are starting from -2 going all the way to 4, from -2 all the way to 4. So to illustrate this information on the graph, since you have y is greater than or equal to x minus 2, you have an x and a y, you need a table with at least 3 boxes. You can use 2, that's okay, but you need a third box for confirmation, just in case you make a mistake. So now you choose you choose x values, and then you use those x values you have picked to find corresponding y values. So for me, because I know that I'll be subtracting whatever I pick for my x's, a 2, I'll pick numbers which will be easy for me. So I can pick a 2 because I know that 2 minus 2 is a 0. I can pick a 3 because I know that 3 minus 1 is a 1. And then I can also pick a 4. You are free to pick numbers this side Let me just pick them here just to show you what will happen. So for example, if you pick -2, maybe you pick a 0 and a 1, then you'll be dealing with negative numbers because you're using this. So you can say y is equal to, instead of using the greater than sign, you can still use an equal sign here. And then where there is x, you put your -2, and then you subtract a 2. So this will be -4. So if you can work with negative numbers, then go ahead and use these numbers. But I don't want to go through this, so I'll just pick numbers which will be easy for me. So you can say y is equal to x minus 2. So y will be, when x is 2, this will be 2 minus 2, which is 0. And then y is equal to, when x is 3, I'll just put my 3 there, minus 2, this will give me a 1. And then when x is 4, I'll do this, so this will be a 2, that will be a 1. And then now we can plot these points. So the first point is 2, 0. 2, 0 is here, x is 2, y is 0, so that means it's on the x-axis. You put a dot or a cross. And then 3, 1, 3, 1 is here. And then 4, 2, 4, 2 is there. And then now you can connect these points using a straight line. But before you draw your line, your straight line, you need to check whether you are drawing a solid line or a broken line. So if you have greater than or equal to, then the line will be solid. So provided the equal sign is there, either in part or in full, you always have a solid line. Or if not, then you have a broken line. So now let's connect these points with a solid line. So your line should cover your entire graph. Please do not leave it like this just because your 3 points are here. Make sure you extend it all the way to the end. So this is my graph. But then, because of the greater than or equal to sign, I have to shade the wanted region, as you can see, by shading the wanted region. So you can pick any point of your choice, and then you test it in the equation and check whether you're getting a true mathematical statement or not. So I can pick a 0, 0, I can pick a 1, 1, I can pick a 0, 1. I can just pick anything, either this side or this side. So because I don't want to make my work harder, I'll pick 1, 1. Another one can still pick 0, 0. So 1, 1. Make sure that the point is not on this line, or else you get something like 2 is greater than or equal to 2, which doesn't make sense. So when you substitute these values here, your y is 1, and then your x is also a 1, then minus 2. So you have 1 minus 2, this is minus 1. So as you can see, 1 is indeed greater than minus 1. So I'll go to the side where I picked the point. So I picked the point from there, and I'll shade that same side. So if this statement was not true, I was going to shade the other side. And then we have another interesting topic, which is mensuration. So the following diagram is a triangular prism, PTSQRU, in which PT is equal to QS, which is 6 centimeters, and then TS is equal to UR, which is equal to PQ, and this is 10 centimeters. So given that the height of the triangle PUT, this one, the imaginary height, is 2.6, calculate the volume of the prism. So volume is given by half LBH. So to find my volume here, please do not forget the half, because this is like half of a cuboid. So you can say half multiplied by your L and your B must be perpendicular to each other. So we are saying this and that because we have a small square there. So in case you are not sure which numbers to multiply, just look for the small square. It will tell you where you have two perpendicular lines meeting. So you can say this multiplied by this, so you can say 6 multiplied by 2.6, and then multiplied by h, which is 10 there. And then to make it easier, I can do this would be a 3. Then I can also multiply these two, because this times this will just give me a 26. Then you can say 26 multiplied by 3, so this times this will be an 18. This times this we have a 6 plus 1, that's a 7. So our answer here is 78 centimeters, because this is volume. This will be cubic centimeters. And finally, we have question 8. So given that T is equal to, okay, so this is subject to the formula. It's also a nice topic. So given that T is equal to 3C minus 5 over C plus 1, make C the subject of the formula. So to make C the subject of the formula, you can't just take this one to the other side or this one to the other side. The first thing you want to do is to get rid of the fractions by cross multiplying, or multiplying both sides by this. But I strongly recommend cross multiplication. So you can just say this times this will be 3C minus 5, and then this times this. By the way, it doesn't matter which side you start with. You may get answers which may appear different, but technically speaking, they are the same and they are both acceptable. And then we can get rid of the brackets now by saying this times this will be CT, and this times this we have a T. So now at this point, you want all the terms with a C on one side. So you can say 3C, bring this CT to the other side, and then you can take the 5 to the other side. So this will be positive 5. When I take this one to the other side, I have minus CT. And then now I can factor the C out, because I want to make C the subject of the formula. I'll factor the C out so that we have 3. When I factor the C out here, I'll remain with the C, and then I'll remain with a T there, which is equal to this. And then at this point, I can divide both sides by 3 minus T. 3 minus T, this and this will go. And then my C will be T plus 5 over 3 minus T. And you're done. So if you decided to start with this one, for example, you may get something like this: minus T minus 5, and then minus 3 plus T, something like this. Sometimes you may even have something like minus 5 minus T over T minus 3. All these three are the same things. They're just different versions of the same answer. And then we have Madi here. So this is a Tonga word which means money. So Madi is paid a monthly salary of 10,500. He also receives transport allowance of 10% of the salary. Calculate his total income per month. So this Madi gets 10,500, and then in addition to this, he also receives, by also we mean addition here, because if he's getting this and then he's getting something else, then in total he's getting what he gets as his basic pay plus whatever he gets for his transport allowance. So we know that this transport allowance is 10% of his salary, and this is his salary. So you can just say 10% means 10 over 100 of his salary. His salary is 10,500. Then to make it easier, just cancel these two zeros out, and then multiply this by that. So this will be 1,050 kwacha. So this is what he gets for his transport allowance. In other words, he gets a 10,500, and he also receives a 1,050 kwacha. So now we can add these two numbers like so. So you can put your 0, your 5, your 0, your 1. So this plus this, you have a 0, we have a 5, we have a 5, this plus this, we have a 1, and then we have another 1. So the answer here will be 11,550. Kwacha, you can even put 0.00 like that. And then we finally have the last question, which is coming from statistics. So the frequency distribution table shows the marks obtained by learners in a test. So we had no person who got 1 mark, which is good. Unfortunately, we had 5 students who got 2 marks, and then we had 4 students who, we had 4 students who got 3 marks, 7 students who got 4 marks, 4 students who got 5 marks. So now what was the model mark? So this was easy because this is ungrouped data. So as you can see, these are marks and then these are frequencies, telling you that you had so many students getting these number of points. So to find the model mark, just find the mark with the highest frequency. Remember, model implies most frequent appearing number. So you want the number that's the mark which appears the most. So 1 does not even appear, 2 appears 5 times, 3 appears 4 times, 4 appears 7 times, 5 appears 4 times. So our answer here is just a 4. And you're done. This was easy. And then calculate the mean mark. So to find the mean, since this is ungrouped data, you don't even need to find the midpoint. All you need to do is find the number of ones you have, add them. You have 2 5s, so this is like 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 5 times, but that's a lot of work because 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 is simply 2 times 5. So what you can do is, instead of adding the way we normally do to find the mean, you can just say this times this, 1 times 0, because 1 does not even appear. You can even ignore this. And then 2 multiplied by 5, and then plus 3 multiplied by 4, and then plus 4 multiplied by 7, and then plus 5 multiplied by 4. Everything over the total number of students. So remember, the frequency is telling you about the number of students in each category or in each mark. So you had no one in the first mark in getting 1 mark, and then plus 5, we had 5 people there, we had 4 people there, we had 7, and then we had a 4. So now this times this, that's a 0, we have a 10, we have a 12, we have 28, and then we have a 20, and then 0 plus 5, that's a 5, plus 4, we have a 9, 9 plus 7, this is 9 plus 7, this is 16, and then 16 plus 4, this is that. And then now we can add the numbers. So we can say, so I find numbers easier to add when I say this plus this will be 30, then this plus this will be 40, yes, over 20, and then 30 plus this, we have a 70 over 20, then you can cancel out, then 2 into 7, that's 3.5. You're done. Because this is a 3, remainder 1, you put a 0 there, and then that's a 5. So this was 2023 external candidate math paper 2.